Mm. Mm. Hey guys, Eddie back with Couch Talk. Welcome back to the show. If it's your first time with me, welcome to the show. Guys, please hit like, please hit subscribe, turn your notifications on. Stick with me, and I promise I will earn your viewership. Today's topic has been is brought to you by Joe Biden, who has refreshed a topic that I've always been meaning to cover, but just haven't really gotten around to it. But thanks to Joe, good old Sleepy Joe, he's gotten us back on this topic, and that is the topic of the handling or mishandling of classified documents. As you well know, Mr. Joe is now experiencing some of the turmoil that Trump underwent earlier in the year with regard to the documents that he kept over from his presidency. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today is my experience with classified documents, and then I wanted to talk about differences and similarities between the two situations. And I want to, because I think what's going on here is, as always, there's one side is saying one thing, the other side is saying the other thing, and the truth is often, right here in the middle. So, let's start with me. I am ex-Navy, as many of you know, ex-military, and I myself had a top secret clearance. There wasn't many things that I dealt with that required top secret clearance, but, a couple of things. I was stationed on DD 985 USS Cushing, and there are things aboard ships that require top secret clearance. There are things aboard ships that require secret clearance. There are, the standard operating procedures manual that discusses many of the procedures for a naval vessel. Most of that is classified. Training regimens are classified. And some of this stuff, keep in mind, like, for example, one of the things that was top secret classified that I dealt with was my training regimen for the military fraternity I was in, Heritage. And, obviously, we don't want to let everybody know how we train. But that having been said, if somebody stumbled across it and they're like, ooh, now I know how one military fraternity at the NC State chapter trains, and I'd be like, oh no, now we're all gonna die. No, I mean, see what I mean? Like, even though I was top secret, it's important to note that not everything that is top secret is like the location and passkey to a nuclear football. You know what I mean? It's not usually that kind of situation. Now, don't get me wrong. There's everything along that spectrum from not very important to very, 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 very direly important, right? So it's important to still respect the handling of these documents, even if you personally deem that it isn't terribly important, right? Which is why you would think that the one person in the entire world to have more reason than anybody else to respect the handling of these documents would be the President of the United States. And yet, it seems to be the standard operating procedure for presidents these days, either just to not pay attention or to forget about stuff or to be so unorganized, so disorganized that, So, let's start with Trump. Because there's a lot of things that you need to know about these two different situations, and some of them are similarities between the two, and some of them are differences between the two. So let's start with the similarities. All right, one of the similarities between the two situations, and this, in my mind, is the biggest and most important factor to compare and contrast, and that is, was there a mishandling of classified documents or wasn't there? That is the most important facet of this. And I mean, what I'd like for everybody to think about is, if you were to liken this to any other crime, if you were to use this and, metaphor it out to any other criminal behavior, right? Like, let's say, for example, murder, right? What a lot of people are telling you is like, oh, well, Trump had so many more of them, right? Okay, yeah. Yes, mass murder is bad, right? Like, more murders is worse than fewer murders. But it's still murder, right? you are still going to jail, and you're still going there for a long time, right? It really, in my mind, if you're a murderer, you're a murderer, right? Same thing I think goes here, right? If you are a mismanager of classified documents, then you are a mismanager of classified documents. It doesn't really matter how many. I mean, sure, there might be like multiple counts of the same crime. And to be honest with you, I've read over the Presidential Records Act and tried to understand which aspects of it were violated and which aspects of it. Some of this stuff is being prosecuted under the Espionage Act, and so there's different facets of the way that these documents are handled. Like, for example, how often they're moved from one location to another. But some of that to me, that's just minutia. To me, the point is they both mismanaged documents. That's it. That's the basis of this. Now, Trump mismanaged a lot more. Now, one of the things I noticed about Trump is that, even after, if you look at the timeline, so they finally gave up documents. They were slow to give up the documents in the first place, the voluntary opening 15 cases of documents that he gave. And then the guy from the Records Association is like, wow, this is a mess, and there's stuff in here. Some of it's classified. So then they reach out to the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice issues a subpoena. And then Trump is like, all right, come get it. Right? He was complying with the subpoena. Now, this is the crazy part, right? This is the part that I'm trying to figure out. The FBI and several high-ranking DOJ officials show up at Mar-a-Lago. They take some stuff, and then somehow they didn't get it all. Now, that's what's driving me crazy. Now, I can't think of good reasons why they wouldn't have it all. I can think of some bad reasons, right? For example, like one option is maybe Trump hid it on purpose. I don't know. Maybe he did. Another possibility is maybe they planted it, right? Like the second time. Or perhaps they saw more, but they refused to get it all just so that they could embarrass Trump, right? And, you might call this a conspiracy theory, but then, of course, so is, Trump hid it, right? This is all just speculation at this point. I can't think of a good reason why they would not have just gotten everything that first time. If I query my heart, what do I feel like probably happened? If I had to guess, I would say that Trump was just so horribly disorganized that when they showed up, it was probably just papers everywhere. And they're like, well, we'll take this stuff right here, and if you find any more, just send it, right? Which, to me, is laziness on behalf of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, I don't know why they did it like that, and it's really weird because they didn't get everything, and then Trump's lawyers send them a letter saying that they did get everything, and then they didn't believe Trump's lawyer, and then came and raided him. So that's the part that's blowing my mind. So now how would they know that Trump's lawyer was lying unless they knew that they had left stuff there? Which, to me, I'm trying to figure out why the FBI would do that. I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but I just can't figure. I mean, they had to have known that more stuff was there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have raided it. Like, I don't know. Some of this stuff just doesn't make any sense. That's the similarity is that they both mishandled these classified documents. They both had situations where the security wasn't very good. Biden's like, oh, it was all in the locked garage, but it wasn't. It wasn't all in the locked garage. Some of it was found in the Penn convention center or something. One of them was found. Some of it was found in an adjacent room to the garage, and some of it was just recently found. Again, there's like 3 different. So, this is not like it was all in a lockbox that was perfectly secure, and nor was Mar-a-Lago perfectly secure. As a matter of fact, the FBI even told Trump, hey, look, you need to secure this better, and so he did. He got an extra lock for the door and put more surveillance out there. Then they requested their surveillance, and then they were like, oh, God, we got to go back and raid it. So I don't know. It was just a weird situation altogether. Now, one key difference between the two is that Trump was the president of the United States and Joe Biden was the vice president of the United States. Now, that may seem like a small difference as they both are bound by the Presidential Records Act, but the key difference there is Trump was authorized to declassify documents. He could do so. But it is very important to note that contrary to Trump's statements, and we all know he makes some airheaded statements, he cannot just declassify things by thinking it. That is not how it works. At the very least, the president has to communicate it to the requisite departments who would also manage classifying it and or would have access to it. And he has to communicate it in a way that memorializes it, right? Like you have to basically say, now this is declassified, which is fine. Like Trump could have done that, and maybe he did. And it's tough to say which ones he did and didn't because his lawyers are particularly uncooperative with all of the requests from the Department of Justice. And, in the beginning, I thought he was just being a whiny baby and like getting mad because they were trying to take his toys away, like his mementos. But now I feel like he's just being belligerent, right? Now I feel like Trump is just being like, all right, now they raided my place. Now I want you to give them as hard a time as possible, which, can't say I wouldn't be of the same mind if they raided my place, especially being the first former president ever to have your place raided. My thing is, they did not need to raid that place. If they didn't get everything the first time and they knew it, why didn't they just send those guys back? Talking about like, hey, keep in mind, this is a former president of the United States, right? I'm not saying you have to respect Trump because I don't particularly like Trump. But you have to respect the office of the presidency. And I know people are going to say, no, they're one and the same, but they are not. They're not the same. It is possible to respect the office and not respect the person. That's one of the things that I've learned in management too, and it's one of the things I try to communicate to people. Every time I took over leadership, a lot of times when people say, like, oh, I don't have to respect you, you got to earn my respect. And the very first thing I say is like, no. Eddie has to earn your respect, but the position of manager doesn't. You have to do what the manager says, even if you don't respect it. Same thing for the president. You may not respect the person that's in the office, but you still have to respect that office. That office is still the office of the most powerful man on earth. And if you just treat it like this, where you just like willy-nilly just, rate it just because you feel like it, because you want to embarrass somebody, that's not how to play this, guys. That had no finesse whatsoever. The FBI failed in that regard. They could have just sent some guys back and done it amicably. And it's not like Trump told them they couldn't get the stuff. He told them to come get it. If they failed to get it all, that's on them. I mean, can you imagine if you were the boss of those FBI guys and they come back and they bring all the stuff back and they're like, all right, we got the stuff from Trump. And you're like, did you get it all? And they're like, I don't know, boss, maybe. You'd be like, get your butt back over there and get the rest. Like, what do you do? That's laziness. What are they doing? All right, so I've railed enough on Trump. Trump, to me, is a horribly disorganized person. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that's just disrespectful. And then, like I said, we got to respect the office of the presidency. I don't think Trump does that. I don't think he respects that office. I think he sat there. And so, he has an understanding of what the office means, but I don't think he respects the office. And this is a demonstration. The fact that he can't manage classified documents in a responsible manner, he's the one person on earth that should have. And Biden likewise, right? Being a president now, should be the one. Here's what gets me. What I don't get is a couple of questions I have about Biden's situation. Number one, they found the first one on November 2nd. Now, I don't know if you guys remember what happened in November shortly thereafter, but I think it is safe to guess the reason that we didn't know about it in November. They're afraid it might have tipped the midterms. Now, I don't really understand that. I don't understand why the assumption is that if Biden does wrong, that will affect the midterms of the other Democrats. Don't get me wrong, I get that there's like a Democrat brand, right, and Republican brand, and I understand that you can damage the image of the party, but we need to get past that, right? Like just as I'm forgetting past party blindness, just as I don't like partisanship, I think it's also important to think about each particular senator and each particular representative of Congress for their own merits, right? Like if Biden's a corrupt jerk, which who knows, right? Like if Biden holds those qualities, then Biden should get voted out of office. But that doesn't mean that, for example, Senator Warnock shouldn't. Those are two completely different people, right? I don't understand why we hold the sins of any man on any other man unless they're complicit in the same action, right? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't really understand why we weren't informed on November 2nd. I feel like that's a disservice to the voters of America to try to keep information from them. And this is not the first time that Biden has done this, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that we're seeing a pattern now of him trying to postpone information until after elections just so that they can win. And that drives me crazy. It's not like Republicans don't do it, but God, it drives me crazy. It's just so important to them to win that they sacrifice the voters' confidence. It drives me nuts. So that's question number one. Question number two. So one of the key differences between these is if, as the classifier, Trump theoretically could have declassified these documents. Biden couldn't. So if he's got these documents, I'm trying to figure out why he's got them. Why were they moved? I don't really understand I know Trump left in kind of a hurry, right? Wasn't expecting to leave and then, pulled his little stunt. But Biden, didn't leave in a hurry. So, he had plenty of time to figure it out and get the things to the right place and send them to NARA. Or I'm really not sure why it would go to, one place to another place to his Corvette. Doesn't really make any sense to me. Another thing that doesn't make sense to me is when when the first document was discovered, they say that, they contacted, NARA and the FBI immediately. But I don't think they did. I think they had a little strategy meeting first. I think that's where the delay came in. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't do the same thing, but it's kind of interesting that we're finding out about it, a good 2 months later, 2.5 really. So that's, who puts documents in a Corvette? Another question I have is, why did Biden send lawyers who don't have the security clearance to see these things to go get them? Like, why wouldn't he send one of his aides with top secret clearance to go get it? I really don't get it. Another question I have is, when Trump was facing down these issues and dealing with a raid and possibly about to be indicted, why at that point didn't everybody, and I mean everybody, get together and be like, oh crap, we better get our classified documents in order. Like, see what's happening to him? We better all, get our house clean. Why didn't that happen? Right? Like, why didn't Biden send everybody out then? Why is he doing it now? It's a little bit late. And he's sending the wrong people to do it, so that's kind of weird. Now, one thing I'll give Biden that I don't give Trump is Biden's cooperating, right? He's basically like, all right, let's find everything we can, let's turn it over, let's declare it, let's make sure that we get it, immediately handed over. Trump is like, no, I want my toys. File an injunction. File what is it called? A protective assertion of executive privilege. Now, I get it, as the interim president, he had some of those rights, but just because you got the right to do something doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean that's the right thing to do, right? Like, Trump definitely should have been more cooperative start to finish. When FBI came the first time to his place, he wouldn't even answer their questions. He just came by and said, hi, here's the stuff, and, hi. That's, kind of weird. I don't understand why Biden would send it. I don't understand why these documents are surfacing now. there have been some conspiracy theories, again, speculation, right? Because we don't have all the details, that maybe these things are being planted. Like maybe this is Democrats throwing Biden under the bus. I don't know if I buy that. I suppose it's possible. I know that I've been in management a long time, and I've done some things that accidental, but may have cost me my job, may have been a problem. Like, for example, I remember one time I left a deposit in my office, left the door open, forgot to close it, lock it. Definitely against procedure. Definitely, like, if my boss walked in that moment, I would have lost my job, But, when you're a good leader and you have a good team under you, they protect you just like you protect them. And so, my assistant manager didn't like see it and then call my boss. No, she just shut the door and she's like, hey, you left the door open. Like she let me know, gave me a heads up, and then covered me, right? Now, I'm not saying that that's the same thing as this, because it's a little bit different when there's legal procedures that you're supposed to follow. But it surprises me that they didn't cover him, right? It surprises me that if they really wanted to take care of Biden, like, and take care of everything, make him look good, they could have, right? All this stuff could have been burned in a fire, right? They could have surreptitiously slipped it back into the place where it's supposed to be or something, or sent a bunch of, I don't know. But I don't think that they necessarily had to go this route. So it surprises me that that's what happened. Because that's what's happened, I'm thinking maybe they're just trying to get rid of him. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's the Republicans who planted it, and then, somebody called in one of those anonymous tips, right? To like kind of even the score, look, Trump did it. Now if we just plant a couple things on Biden. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's just really odd that this timing is really odd right before Biden is about to declare that he's going to run again. So maybe they don't want him running again. I don't know. It's kind of, it's got my mind blown. But one thing that we do know is that Biden's taking this very seriously. He takes documents very seriously. Classified documents are being taken seriously. So they're being taken seriously. So seriously, guys, I want to know what you guys think. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll catch you guys next time on Couch Talk.